Hello, Chicago. Welcome back in to Chi-Town Weekly here on IE Sports Radio on this Recovery Monday. What a gut check way to end the regular season last night. Certainly not the way we hoped it was going to go for the Bears. Such is what it is, though. They were only able to do what they were able to do. Now what? We knew the offseason was going to be here today. But now what do we do? What to do with Eberlus? What to do about Luke Getson? What to do about Justin Fields? What to do with the number one pick in the draft? What now? Going to be talking that a lot the next upcoming week, so we may as well start now. We'll also be checking in on the Bulls tonight as they are in action tonight, taking on the Hornets down in Charlotte. We'll check in on them. We'll check in on the NCAA title game. We also want to talk a little bit about Connor Bedard before we get out of here tonight. Lots to get into. Let's get this thing started. Hello and good evening again, everyone. I am your host, Adam Karnick. Welcome back into Chi-Town Weekly. So glad that you are here with us, whether you're listening live here on Spreaker or if you're catching on later on as a podcast, whether it's on YouTube, Spotify, iHeartRadio, wherever it is. Thank you for being here. We are going to have lots to go over tonight. Lots of Bears discussion, lots of NFL discussion. Today is Black Monday, the traditional day where a lot of head coaches get fired. We will get anybody and everybody caught up on that as well. And just as I said in the open, lots of what now going on with the Chicago Bears. Before we get too much further, of course, we do want to take care of our homework here. This show and all shows here on IE Sports Radio, of course, are presented to you by Planet Jerky Premium Brisket Beef Jerky. Planet Jerky is the official jerky of the 2022 California League champion Lake Elsinore Storm, the single A affiliate of the San Diego Padres. This all brisket jerky has gluten-free options, contains no MSG, no sodium nitrate, is low in sugar, and high in protein. This is some of the best jerky you can get your hands on. All you have to do is visit planetjerky.net to place your order. They still are offering free shipping on all orders of $50 or more. And whatever your taste buds, whatever your palate is, you will find something for you. They've got the hot end, the Carolina Reaper, or the volcanic jalapeno. But if you prefer something on the milder side, they've got the cowboy beef jerky. They've got the sweet and hot. They've got smoking barbecue style. They've got things in between as well for your, depending on your heat gauge. They tell you right there on the packaging, so you don't have to wonder, is somebody trying to pull a fast one on me? It's right there on the packaging. Right there next to the awesome astronaut hanging out there in space for you to let you know just what you're getting yourself into. Planet Jerky Premium Brisket Beef Jerky. Again, visit them, planetjerky.net. The jerky that's on a whole other planet. Now, IE Sports Radio for the last zeroing in on 10 years now. That's coming up this summer. IE Sports Radio has brought you amazing content ranging from interviewing legendary athletes, coaches, and other authorized media personnel to building tailor-made shows dedicated to all major sports cities around the country. Be sure to follow us at IE Sports Radio on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok to keep up with the latest in sports and with all of our shows. Also, check out our daily updated website, iesportsradio.com, for sports news, the IE Sports Radio blog, our Hall of Fame, Fans of the Month, pages dedicated to each of our podcasts, our IE Sports Radio community forum, and stop by the shop to check out the merchandise. Thank you for making IE Sports Radio your direct feed for all that is sports. And if you are listening live here tonight on Monday night here on Spreaker.com, hop on into the chat room. We've got it buzzing already. Taryn Rodriguez is here. Kathy Kernick is here. Ralph Calise is here, and Mike Pat is in the chat room. So hop on in there. You can join in the conversation, throw questions at me, interact with everybody else there in the chat room, have some fun there. Or if you're listening later on in the week as a podcast, or you just want to sit back and be a passive listener, that is fine by me. Thank you for being here. That's the most important part of all this. Just thank you for your support. I really do appreciate it. Before we get any further, let me run through the chat room a little bit here. Taryn, of course, wanted to know what the Bears are going to do with the first pick in the draft, and we will get there as part of our conversation tonight. Taryn, of course, also the host of Set Point. He was on earlier today breaking down all things volleyball. He does bring up that Loyola Chicago men's volleyball team did upset number 3 Hawaii on Friday. So the Ramblers now are ranked 10th in the nation. They are taking on Stanford tonight, a back-to-back match with number 8 Cardinal there. So go Ramblers. We'll see how they can do on the men's volleyball side. Ralph Calise joining the show. Hello, Ralph. And Mike, it's Chi time for Chi-Town. Yeah, we'll see what we can do. And good evening also to Wes. Looking forward. Hopefully we hear something definitive soon. Yeah, we'll see what pops up in the coaching world. So let's dive in to all this. Of course, yesterday was brutal. Just brutal. You only get so many opportunities to show that you're ready to take the next level and fail at those before things just turn ugly. And they turned ugly in a bad way yesterday. I don't even really want to recap the game as it is, other than just a couple of points. And then we'll kind of go into the season as a whole. I know that outside of the quarterback debate, the quarterback controversy, which of course we will be talking about and we'll continue to talk about for 2-3 months down the road until something happens one way or the other. The other just blanket definitive that seems to be in the fan base right now is that the coaches are morons. The coaches are idiots. It's all the coaches' fault. Just get rid of all the coaches. If they're a coach for the Bears, they must be incompetent. Get rid of them. And the coaches absolutely deserve blame for what happened yesterday. And there's some number, as often I have some numbers, and we'll get into those numbers. But before we get into that, the players have to own some of this too. You look at the numbers from yesterday. The Packers were 7 of 11 on third down. They never punted. They made it onto the Bears' side of the field on every possession. That can't all be on the coaches. At some point, a prime example, a perfect example. And I was screaming this with a couple of my buddies in one of my chats last night. As vehemently as I can. At the 3rd and 8 on the final drive there of the game, you can dial up whatever. Yeah, Mike. Yeah, sounds like a wonderful defensive performance. Oh, it was special. One sack too to go along with all that. You know, one sack on 33 dropbacks for Jordan Love. The 3rd and 8 to end the game when the Packers converted. You can dial up whatever defense you want. You can choose whatever it is you want. Ultimately, at the end of the game, players have to execute. And that didn't happen. And that didn't happen a lot yesterday on both sides of the ball. I gave you all those defensive statistics, you know, just utterly failing to get off the field on 3rd down. The only 3rd down that the Packers failed yesterday in the second half was when one of their receivers dropped a pass in the back of the end zone. Otherwise, the Packers converted every 3rd down in the second half yesterday. They didn't even force the Packers into 3rd down on their opening drive, except they only got to 3rd down on one time in their opening drive of the second half. Some of that has to fall on the players. Somebody's got to go out there and execute. Where was Montez Sweat yesterday? Where was Gervon Dexter yesterday? Where was where has Eddie Jackson been for the last 3 years, basically? I know Jalen Johnson was hurt. Yannick Ngakwe's out. Where was Brisker? Where was Kyler Gordon? Tyreek Stevenson made a couple of nice plays. You know, the rookie single-handedly kept you in that game, amazingly enough, by making an otherworldly tackle at the end of the first half to allow the clock to run out so the Packers couldn't kick a field goal. And then forced the fumble on the only stop the Bears made in the second half. Ultimately, your playmakers you've got to have guys make plays. It can't all just be the coaches. Period. Paragraph. All that said, as I crap on the defense there, all that said, they did hold the Packers to 17 points. They only scored 3 times, the same number of times the offense did, except the Packers got the ball into the end zone, whereas offensively, when you got into the red zone, all you could do was dribble it down your leg and have to settle for a Cairo Santos field goal. Taryn Rodriguez wondering if Brandon Staley was back as defensive coordinator for the Bears. Well, small technicality there, Taryn. I know you being a Chargers guy, Brandon Staley is effectively a curse word for you. He was never actually the Bears' defensive coordinator. He was an assistant, but your point is well taken. Yes. What happened there? How? For some perspective here. For some perspective here. All right. Luke Getsy is reviled right now in Chicago for whether he should be or not. He is reviled. He has to wear a low brim hat, and he has to cover up with a mask, not because he's sick, but because he doesn't want anybody to recognize him when he goes into Chicago right now. He is public enemy number one. That same energy and visceral disgust that Bears Nation feels towards Luke Getsy, that's the same attitude they have up in Lambeau when you say Joe Barry. You say Joe Barry around a Packer fan, and they're ready to just drop gloves and fight somebody. They can't stand him. And for good reason. That defense has been, we'll be nice and say challenged all season long. You just came out the week prior and put up 37 on a top 10 defense in Atlanta. You can't score one touchdown against that defense? Anytime it got to third down, you knew that something disastrous was going to happen. I know that Lucas Patrick is down. I know that Nate Davis went down. Tevin Jenkins picked the worst time ever to have the worst game in his career. The middle of the Bears' offensive line was a swinging gate yesterday. But somebody's got to step up and make a play. It never felt like it yesterday, but the Bears were never out of that. They were never more than one score away. It never felt like it. It felt like it was 30-10 pretty much the entire second half. But somebody step up and make a play. Tyler Scott, catch the ball. Roshan Johnson, get through the line better. Khalil Herbert, watch what Aaron Jones was doing the entire time yesterday. The Bears would get there at the line of scrimmage. It would look like, oh, he's going to be stopped for no gain. And then the next thing you know, he's gained 4 yards just through sheer willpower. That was the huge difference in the game yesterday. The Packers came with an extra edge that the Bears simply didn't have. And so now here we are. 7-10, once again, a last place finish in the division. Now what? That's going to be the theme now for the next several weeks. Now what? Should Eberflus stay? Before the season, I had my criteria before the season was I want the Bears to be playing relevant football in the month of December. And by the grace of the football gods and the fact that the NFC as a whole was just awful, they pretty much were playing relevant football all the way through December. And I wanted them to at least hit 7 wins. And they got 7 wins. So was this enough? Well, let's analyze this a little bit. Let's dive into these numbers a little bit. Yes, the Bears went 7-10 overall. God, Taryn, I hope you're right. He writes in the chat room here, soon the Packers' reign over the Bears will end. God, I hope so. I can remember watching Bears football dating back effectively to 1992. I haven't counted it up because it's just too painful, frankly. I don't think I'd need to take off my socks in order to count how many times the Bears have beaten the Packers in that time, in that 30-year stretch. I'd think I'd be just fine counting my fingers. I think it's all it is. This is now 10 straight losses to these guys. They haven't won in Lambeau since Justin Fields was 16. It's just, so I hope you're right, Taryn. I so hope you're right. But let's dive into these numbers a little bit here with this season. Yes, the Bears went 7-10. They happen to this season play 7 games against 5 different teams that ultimately made the playoffs. 3 of them were in the NFC, 2 of them inside their own division, and 2 of them were in the AFC. How did the Bears do in those 7 games? 1-6. Now, I know they blew a fourth quarter lead against the Browns. They blew a fourth quarter lead against the Lions. You could possibly swing those. Close counts and horseshoes and hand grenades. You went 1-6 in those 7 games. I was reminded yesterday as we were watching that game, I was reminded of something a realization I came to the last time the Bears ran the cover 2 defense under Lovie Smith. It works. It's phenomenally spectacular against bad teams, because bad teams get impatient and bad teams try to force the ball, and then you throw it into the waiting arms of a defender who's in the right spot. It works pretty well against average teams. It works pretty well. Against good teams, they pick it apart. They pick it apart. And that's what happened yesterday. I don't want to put too much emphasis on the game because it is one game. Even though it was against the Packers, the team that if you beat nobody else, beat them. But it showed some things yesterday. It reminded you of some things. That Matt Eberflus running this cover 2, you've got to get an offense to complement it. I always chuckle when I hear people say that, well, this defense is made to play from the lead. What defense is made to... I always want to kind of ask the question after that, what defense is made to play from behind? Who's creating a defense? Who's creating a defense where it's, hey, I want to play this defense when we're behind. I wish we're playing from behind, so I get to dial up this defensive scheme. Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. Now, any defense you want to play with the lead. And Wes is doing an excellent job of bringing up some points here. You know, they'll only play cover 2 on third down, and when you have zero pass rush, basically nothing will work. You've got to have a pass rush. You've got to come up with some way to attack. You've got to somehow speed up the quarterback or get him off his rhythm somehow. When I'm saying cover 2, I'm meaning more the overarching philosophy when I'm meaning cover 2 in this sense. Capital C cover 2 as opposed to little c cover 2 of the literal, you're dropping 2 safeties into coverage and dropping the linebacker back, et cetera, et cetera. I'm meaning more the overarching philosophy of we're going to make the team march down the field. We're going to take the ball away. You know, we're going to pounce on the ball when they fumble, and when they get into a hurry and try to intercept. We're going to be there and be the ball hawks. So should Eberflus stay? Has he done enough? It's been a very quiet Black Monday. You know, it's been a very, very quiet Black Monday to this point. Now, we already had some coaches get axed during the season. Brandon Staley of the Chargers was one. Josh McDaniels of the Raiders was another. We've only had two other coaches. We only had two coaches get fired today. And one technically was last night. Arthur Smith, it was 11 o'clock at night, Chicago time. Arthur Smith got cut, got axed in Atlanta. And then earlier today, Ron Rivera in Washington, which it's always sad it's always sad in Chicago to hear that Ron Rivera got fired. Member of the 85 Bears, beloved for that reason, terrific defensive coordinator for the Bears for all those years. So it's very sad to hear that Ron Rivera ultimately wasn't good enough there in Washington. I had some people, I got into some conversations about would Ron Rivera, would he want to take a defensive coordinator job? And boy, if I'm Eberflus, I'd want to reach out to him. Coach, are you willing to, you've been a head coach a long time. Why don't you take a step back rather than having to worry about dealing with a crazy owner and the sale of a team and having to deal with the quarterback situation and draft pick situation and what do you do with this guy and what do you do with that guy? Why don't you just focus on the defense for a little bit? I know you know this scheme, and he can run it better than just about anybody else can. I would love to see him be a defensive coordinator for the Bears. I think that's going to, if Eberflus is going to stick around, I think they have to bring in a defensive coordinator. Because remember, Eberflus has been acting as the defensive coordinator basically since week 4. I think they need to bring in a defensive coordinator for him so that he can just focus on the team, the reason he was brought in. He wasn't brought in to be the defensive coordinator. He was brought in to be the head coach. They need to put him back into that role. And if he doesn't want to accept that, then I think that's then we need to reconsider whether or not you're the right guy for this job then. If you want to be the defensive coordinator, then you be the defensive coordinator and we'll bring in a head coach. But I think there's more moves coming. That Atlanta situation, that was weird that it happened so late at night. There had to have been some kind of conversation there. I imagine Ray on Peachtree Sports Saturday afternoons, 2 o'clock Saturdays right here, IE Sports Radio. I imagine Ray will have some more details there with Atlanta. But that was a weird situation that was so late at night / early in the morning that job opened up. But I imagine there's going to be some more. We still don't know what's happening with Bill Belichick in Pittsburgh. We don't know what's happening, obviously, here in Chicago. Oh, Carolina, obviously, that's another opening to be filled. That was another one that came up mid-season, though. So we've got 5 openings right now, but I wouldn't be surprised if there's a few more that pop up before all is said and done. And Ralph bringing up in the chat, Rivera would be in his comfort zone as a D coordinator with the Bears. I mean, he already was the D coordinator for the Bears once upon a time, 20 years ago, and the Bears made it to the Super Bowl with him as the defensive coordinator. And that was that was arguably the best the Bears defense has looked since 85. I don't know. The 2018 defense, you'd also have a very strong argument in case there. But 2005, 2006 Bears defense, 2018 Bears defense are both very strong candidates there. But yeah, he would be fantastic. And I know that because he's already done it. And he's done it at a high level. And that brings us over to the offense. There's a lot of people. I mentioned how people want Getsy gone. And what I keep reading and hearing from people is bring in somebody who's done it. Don't bring in a quarterback coach who's never called plays before. That's not the way to do this. Bring in a guy with experience. Bring in somebody that's done this before. Well, that's a great idea. I agree. That's a fantastic idea in theory. Here's the problem in reality, though. In reality, the guys who are good offensive play callers don't become available on the market. One of two things happens. They get locked up by their current team until they can't do the job anymore, or they get promoted and they go become head coaches. You don't have Mike Pat is gonna jump at me and say, wait a minute, what about my Commanders? Eric Bieniemy is such an outlier example of a skilled, talented, well thought of play caller leaving one team to go take a lateral move with another team, to not get a promotion, not have anything change with his business card, go from being a play calling offensive coordinator with team A to go be an play calling offensive coordinator with team B. That just doesn't happen. That is such a rare phenomenon in the NFL. You don't have the guys that are good at it don't become just like you don't have Patrick Mahomes doesn't show up on the free agent market. Same as with the players, the talented coaches don't just become available. If they do, it's because they're getting promoted. So if that's what you want, then you got to be willing to get rid of Eberflus. And it doesn't sound like they're prepared to do that. It sounds like the temperature in the room right now seems to be that they want to keep him. Now, that could change. One of the things we're going to be keeping an eye on tonight is the National Championship game. As I take a look at it real quick, Michigan is currently up 14-3. If Jim Harbaugh wants to entertain thoughts of coming into the NFL again, man, that would be a fun one for the Bears. You see how this game goes, but if they win this game, if Michigan wins this game, you come to him and you say, look, we know you've talked to NFL teams the last couple of years. What you've done at your alma mater is amazing. You've brought them back to relevancy. You've beaten Ohio State 3 straight years. You've won the Big Ten 2 or 3 straight years. I honestly don't remember off the top of my head. You've made it to the college football playoff 3 years in a row. You made it to the title game this year. You won the title, assuming they hold on to this lead. What else can you do at Michigan? How much higher can you go with Michigan? The Big Ten is changing. The Big Ten is about to undergo some massive changes. It might be better. It might be better for Michigan. It might be worse for Michigan. We don't know. But what we do know is it's changing. Come here. Come here. You haven't won at this stage yet. You came oh so close. You came oh so close. It took your brother to beat you. It took Joe Flacco and an amazing Ravens defense to stop you from getting to the absolute zenith, the absolute top of the mountain of the sport. Come here. You can get it done here. We know you can. Take a page out of the Cubs book. Make him the highest paid coach. Make him the highest paid coach in the history of the game. Shoot big. Shoot big if you're the Bears here. That's what I'd love to see them do. That's my dream scenario for what to do with the coaching. Until that happens, though, we're in a little bit of a holding pattern. Darren Rodriguez, Harbaugh is coming to the Chargers next year, please and thank you. I know. Just about every NFL team that's got an opening right now is watching this one and getting ready to place their bid. Harbaugh has ties to the Bears. He was a Bears quarterback for a while. He probably didn't rub the McCaskies the right way. That, frankly, makes him okay in my book. How is his relationship with Kevin Warren? Well, Warren was the Big Ten commissioner. Those are some things to think about and remember and consider. Those are things that I want to remember about this. That's my dream scenario. We've got one other huge now what? And we'll get to that on the other side of a break. Now what do you do about the quarterback? Now what do you do about that number 1 overall pick? We'll talk about that on the flip side of a break. You are listening to Chi-Town Weekly here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. We will be right back after this.
Hey sports fans, do you like wine? Well, we've got the show for you. This is Let's Wine About Sports, a show where we talk about wine and sports simultaneously. From the classic Cabernet Sauvignon all the way down to the grapes that you've never even heard of before. Oh yeah, we cover it all. And we'll talk about a little bit of sports as well. Football, hockey, collegiate, women's sports, it doesn't matter. We're going to talk about it all, and we're going to whine about it all. So join me Monday at 8 p.m. on IU Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
What's up? It's your man Bishop, the voice of This Is KC Sports, the show where we go over the Chiefs, the Royals, KC Current, Sporting KC, MU, and oh yeah, if we got time, We'll even throw in some of that KU stuff from my people on the 913 South. Come and hang out with us every Sunday, 2 p.m. Central Standard Time on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
Hockey fans, I'm Adam Kernick.
And I'm Zach Puplis.
Together, we are the newest version of Hockey Talk on IE Sports Radio, The Neutral Zone.
Zone.
We love hockey, but we also know it's not everyone's first sport. So we want to make this show as much for new fans as for the diehards.
Whether you can name all the Swedes on the 08 Red Wings Stanley Cup team, or if you can't tell if Varlamov is a goalie or the latest trendy vodka, we're here to help. With facts, figures, and outrageous fans, we bring you all the hard-hitting hockey news you can handle, while still keeping it fun and on the rails. Well, mostly.
So tune in every week as we go around the hockey world, from college to Canada, the minors and the majors, and everywhere in between.
So bring your cellies.
And your one-timers.
You wicked wristas.
And be sure to protect your five-hole.
Catch the Neutral Zone every week on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
We promise not to pick on the Arizona Coyotes every episode.
It's IE Sports Radio. It is your direct feed for all that is sports. It is Philly Sports Talk with Cash and Chris every Tuesday night right here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. Philly Sports Talk with Cash and Chris is the most comprehensive view on Philadelphia sports, exclusively right here on IE Sports Radio. You know what it is, your direct feed for all that is sports. Tuesday night, IE Sports Radio, Philly Sports Talk with Cash and Chris.
And welcome back into Chi-Town Weekly here on IE Sports Radio. Catch all of our listings for all of our shows at our website, iesportsradio.com. Several of those are on Tuesdays. The Philly Sports Talk, they're going to be talking some playoffs. You know, Cash and Chris will. Catch Zach and myself on the Neutral Zone tomorrow talking some hockey. We'll get into that a little bit later on in the show. But the big now what for the Bears after they lose yesterday to finish 7-10 overall, and once again last place in the division. What about Justin Fields? Now what about that number one overall pick? If the Bears didn't have the number one overall, I hear all the time, if the Bears didn't have the number one overall pick, then there wouldn't be any question or conversation about Justin Fields. They'd clearly be keeping him. There's a flip side of that argument too, though. If Justin Fields had put up the numbers and had the season that, say, Jordan Love from up in Green Bay just put together. Had he put together that kind of season this year, the kind of season that myself and a lot of other Bears fans were hoping to see, they're over 30 touchdown passes, over 4,000 yards, those numbers would have all been those numbers would have both been Bears records, by the way. If Justin Fields had put up those kind of numbers and had that kind of a season, it wouldn't matter that the Bears are drafting number one overall. You know that they'd be keeping Fields. So there's two sides to that coin. I am a huge fan of Justin Fields. Every time I have this conversation, I always bring it up. I was a fan of his when he was coming out of college. I am beyond disappointed that he has not blossomed and progressed like we thought. And like we talked about at the very top of the show, there's blame to go around, certainly with the coaches. He's not gotten the best of support from the coaches, whether it was Matt Nagy as a rookie or Luke Getsy the last couple of seasons. But he has to take some ownership of that as well. He's got to progress faster. And I don't mean as a whole. I mean moving through his progressions on a play faster. He's got to understand what open in the NFL is faster. He's not there yet. And it's disappointing and it's frustrating. Now, I said it last week, and I'm going to continue to say it. I refuse to believe that a 24-year-old quarterback, he'll turn 25 before next season. I refuse to believe that a 25-year-old quarterback can't continue to progress. I refuse to believe that he is a finished product, that this is as good as he will be. But I am once again getting the feeling that it might not happen for Fields with the Bears. That the best thing for Fields might be to move on. And you heard Fields kind of prepare for that possibility in his final press conference yesterday, that he said goodbye. He said goodbye to the fans. You know, that if this is it, he has no regrets. He's going to hold his head up high. He loved the support, and the fans were giving him support even today, lining the streets on the way into Hallis Hall with signs showing support for Justin Fields. In Justin, we trustin'. That was my favorite one. I don't know about Caleb Williams. I don't know about Drake May. I see Taryn pointing out that Adam Rank pointed out that if the Bears move on from Fields, they should just do a massive reset on the entire team. They just did a massive reset. And they literally just did last year. They tore it down to the if you were any good at football, you were getting shipped off and traded to wherever last year. They put out such a mediocre team talent-wise last year. To turn around and do that again just 2 years later, but I get where he's coming from. I don't know what Williams or May could be. Penix, you know, the two guys that are quarterbacking tonight right now in the NFC. God, listen to me. In the NCAA title game, you know, McCarthy and Penix are both being considered as first-round products. Penix more so than McCarthy. McCarthy's more of a fringe tweener 1-2 guy right now from what I'm seeing and reading and kind of observing. But they're still, these are guys that the Bears could be looking at as well. The LSU kid kind of makes me chuckle. When I read about him, is it Neighbors? Is that his name from LSU? When I've been reading about him, Jaden Daniels getting ready for the NFL draft. Everything I read and see about him is effectively he'd just be Justin Fields but younger. That's one that makes me chuckle. If that's what you're going for, then I'd say just keep Fields. But he still just hasn't taken that step. And with 38 starts under his belt, you are absolutely not wrong to say that you've got a big enough sample size, that you have a feel for what he is. And if you have to put him in a specific offense, that if he can't operate whatever version of the West Coast offense it is you want to run, if you've got to go with something other than that, then maybe you need a different quarterback. I understand that. And I don't entirely disagree with it. But at the same time, I just can't believe that at not yet 25 years old, it's impossible for him to continue to improve and grow. As we sit here right now, January 8th, I want Justin Fields. But I also recognize that if you just simply run this back, don't change anything, then you're probably going to be changing all three things. When I'm head coach, offensive coordinator, and quarterback, if you run it back on all three of those, then you're probably making changes at all three of them next season. So I didn't want to be exclusively Bears tonight, as we're coming up on the end here. I know there's nobody immediately after. I know there's nobody immediately after me tonight since Taryn did set point a little earlier today, so it is just me. I wanted to keep an eye on both the national championship game and the Bulls game. Over in the national championship game, Michigan is currently beating Washington 17-3. They've got the ball again. The Bulls, meanwhile, they're beating the Hornets. It's a good thing. Man, it's a good thing they get the Hornets. That's a team they can actually beat. Thank goodness. They can handle the Hornets at least. I don't know that there's much else in the NBA that they can handle. Zach LaVine is back. Right now, as they're in the fourth quarter, Bulls hanging on to an 85-81 lead. Nikola Vucevic is leading the team with 17 points. Only 4 rebounds for Vuce at this point right now. That's a bit surprising, but he has been, well, it's in part because he's not missing shots. He's 8 of 15 from the floor. Also got 3 assists. DeMar DeRozan, 7 assists right now for DeRozan. That is a significant number for him. Good for him there. And Andre Drummond, a double-double already, 14 points, 13 boards for the Bulls as they're up 85-81 on Charlotte. So we're keeping an eye on that as the Bulls trying to struggle to remain relevant in the East. They're hanging on by a thread to that final play-in spot in the East. They are the last team in. They're a half game. They're 1 win in front of Toronto. They want to keep it that way if they can stay ahead of the Raptors there. The other one I wanted to get into just a little bit tonight, the Blackhawks. And Ralph, the host of our new Pittsburgh show, the Yinzer Report, he asked earlier on in the show if we got an update on Connor Bedard. Pittsburgh is also a fantastic hockey town. Oh, all the Pittsburgh fans I've ever interacted with all love hockey. I love it. Connor Bedard got some wonderful news last week. He got named to the NHL All-Star Game. He's celebrated by getting his jaw busted against the New Jersey Devils. That was not in the game plan. That was not in the script, unfortunately. And then to make matters worse, Nick Foligno, who is, for all intents and purposes, been the Blackhawks de facto captain. They haven't actually assigned a captain because of still in honor and respect for Jonathan Taves, who's not playing this season. Nick Foligno then went to his aid and fought off Brendan and got into a fight with Brendan Smith over it. Unfortunately, Foligno broke his fingers in the fight, and he's out for a little bit. So not good for Bedard. He's going to be out 4 to 6 weeks with a jaw injury. Fortunately, one of the things, you got a broken jaw. Fortunately, there's a weird sentence to say. Fortunately, the thing about a broken jaw is, I don't think there's anything really fortunate about it, but as far as hockey playing is concerned, you can wear that full-on face mask with the protective stuff. You can still play the game after recovery, after healing, and all that. Obviously, he's in jeopardy for the All-Star festivities. We'll see if they can come up with something. He probably won't be able to skate in any of the games. The way that they do it, there's multiple games. We'll get into that much later. Check the Neutral Zone tomorrow night, 8 o'clock Central Time for that. But he'll probably be able to partake in some of the skills competitions and festivities. That's some of the hope there. The Blackhawks did win their first game without him yesterday. Amazingly enough, they beat Calgary 4-3 yesterday, so they did at least figure out a way to win without him. They're still, we're basically halfway through the season. They have 12 wins, 26 points in the standings. They are way behind everybody in the Central. They are in last by a lot in the Central, which, is not surprising. That's what I kind of expected from them this season, but they're actually a little ahead of pace. I had them as at best winning 20 games, and they've already won 12. So they're actually doing a little bit better than some of my expectations. But the Blackhawks have just gotten destroyed by injuries. And it was, unfortunately, Connor and Nick were the next two guys in line to get hurt. The Blackhawks have had to make some trades just to have people on the roster. They've almost completely depleted their minor league roster from Rockford to bring guys up. They, at one point, I saw one. I think it was Charlie Realmutis, one of their beat reporters for NBC Sports Chicago, put out there that at one point on a power play recently the other night, the Blackhawks put 2 defensive men out there because they literally didn't have any other forwards that they could put out there. They had a unit. Normally on the power play, you will at most have 1 defensive man out there. Some teams will have a unit of all forwards, just because the thinking is, hey, you're not going to be playing defense. You've got the man advantage. The Blackhawks had to roll a power play unit out there with 2 defensivemen just because they'd played 4 forwards on their last power play unit, and they didn't have 4 others to put out there. They only had 3 other forwards healthy that they could put out there. So the Blackhawks are unfortunately very banged up, and Connor Bedard, the most recent one to get hurt. So it's 4 to 6 weeks for him. Hopefully he'll be able to do something for the All-Star festivities in February. And then hopefully also this doesn't hinder him too much when he comes back. Hopefully he'll almost certainly be wearing some special protective equipment, but then hopefully he'll be able to pick up basically right where he left off. That does it for our show tonight. Some big shout-outs, some big thank yous. Once again, thank you to our sponsor, Planet Jerky Premium Brisket Beef Jerky. Check them out, planetjerky.net. Free shipping on all orders of $50 or more. You will enjoy whatever it is you pick out. You will enjoy it. It is excellent stuff. Thank you to Larry B. and all the hard work you do behind the scenes, sir, keeping everything going at this station. Really appreciate that. Thank you to everybody for hanging out in the chat room tonight. Larry B. popped in. Ralph Calise, Taryn Rodriguez, Bernie Bango jumping on there in the end. Wesley Trueblood, Wesley hopping in first time for you. Thank you, sir, for jumping in here. Mike Pack and Kathy Kern and everybody hanging out in the chat room with me. Thank you for being here. Finally, thank you, the listener, whomever you are, wherever you are, whether it was live here tonight or you caught this later on as a podcast. Thank you for being here. Thank you for listening. I really do appreciate it. Like what you heard? Let people know. Spread it around. Hey, there was this Chicago guy who, wow, he had some cool stuff to say. Didn't like it here? Man, I thought this guy was kind of an idiot. Reach out to me. Let me know. Let's talk. Follow me. I am on Twitter at Adam_Karnick. The show is at IESRC. Follow along that way. Just thank you guys for being here. Next week, the now what questions will not be going away anytime for the Bears. We will see what other dominoes fall around the NFL coaching carousel. We'll see if Matt Eberflus is still employed, if Luke Getsy is still employed. What else are the Bears doing there? We will follow up on some of the college hoops. Illinois and Northwestern are starting to make some moves. Loyola and the Atlantic 10. We'll dive into the college scene a little bit as well. Until then, for IE Sports Radio, I am Adam Karnick. Have a great week, everybody. We'll see you next time.